And I'm just going to repeat that in case anyone's watching this back. I've had a dentist appointment. I've had a filling in the left side of my mouth, hence why I might look like I'm talking a little bit funny, just in case, just to get that one out of the way. But so today's call, we're coming into the last couple of weeks of ELIMIN8, and the main things that like I pick up and how I run these calls, and hence why like I've obviously got a bit of structure that I try and go through to each week. And then what I try and do throughout the week is start picking up sort of common trends off all the check-ins. Hence why I like to do all the check-ins in the morning and then see where we are at on the calls. And the main thing like we start seeing throughout the weeks is people slowly start with like needing a little bit of structure with their nutrition. Hence why the first thing I sort of make you do is decide how many sort of times a week you want to, how many times a day you want to eat. Is it like breakfast, lunch, dinner? Is it breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, snack? And then we start building in ideal week, how to get your protein up. Then we start talking about cardio. So it's all this sort of process that builds and builds and builds. And you implement something each week until you're in a good structure and a good bit of routine. Then you start coming towards weeks 5 and then more so 6, 7, and 8. And that sort of structure dies down because when you think you're in a good habit, 2, you think it's a little bit easier, and 3, you're not staying as accountable to spreadsheets and things like that. You're almost sort of thinking you're trying to do it without really looking and giving as much detail as you were originally doing it. But we all know the sort of comments on like how long it takes to implement habits, and you need to ask yourself before you start doing that, are you really now got your structure nailed down? Do you know what days and times you train? Do you know what how many meals you're eating a day? Do you know what your sort of fallback diet is? And if you've got that in place, then fair enough, you are in a very, very, very good position. If not, sometimes it takes time to like take a step back and reflect on what you've got, what's working well, and what you still need help with, because we're going to be talking about like maximizing the most out of the last 2 weeks and how important these last 2 weeks are, and why you probably see more changes physically in these next 2 weeks than you probably did in your first 4 or 5 or 6 weeks coming through into ELIMIN8. So before I start, I know there was a question on vitamins. Does anyone have anything that they would like me to cover on today's call? Anything that they want to talk about? Everyone happy, like all their sort of structure? Anyone need a reminder what the ideal weeks are and things like that?
Yeah, it's Marika. Yeah, sorry, I just got back as you know from holiday, and I just thought it'd be good. I thought I did okay, but it'd be good to cover just something maybe in line with when you do have bad days, is just to get back into the rhythm of the next day, because I had a few nights out and a few meals out, and then you sort of wake up the next day and you think, I haven't had a great day. But then I look at my macros and things, and not too bad. I've had enough protein, I've had enough, but I might have had 3 glasses of wine. And I know you've covered it, but I just wondered, when people go on holiday, when you come back, is there, it's just a motivation for me sometimes to get back on it again, that I struggle with sometimes. But that's just.
And I completely get that. And this is we actually spoke a little bit about this last week, Marika, and I actually think I was a little bit soft on everyone last week. I sort of said like you sort of make up your own decision onto what's important to you, and especially when this comes around to like holidays and weekends. And I spoke about, which I actually am glad you've raised, so I would like to talk about it again, is like phases to a diet. So like my goal as a coach, right, is to get people to a position of where they're happy, and with ELIMIN8, get people to a position of where they're happy with how they look, and they've got a good routine with their workouts, lifestyle, via their lifestyle. So for example, like yourself there, you're probably someone who likes to stay fit and active and healthy during the week, and allows themselves to have a couple of glasses at wine at the weekend without putting on weight, right? Yeah. So that's your goal, and that's where you want to get to. Would you say that's probably pretty accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're doing that and your weight is coming down in the week, going up at the weekend, but on average, it's maintaining. That is the goal. That is where you want to be. If that's happening, but you're currently not comfortable with where you're at, that's when you need to start making smarter decisions, either during the week to allow you a little bit more flexibility for the weekend, or you need to have a plan at the weekends. And that comes down to your choice. In my opinion, I don't think you should make too many aggressive changes in the week to complement your weekends, because what you'll do is the energy balance between the two is too much, and then you'll end up crashing on your diet and no longer sticking to it. So you're best sort of trying to keep things tight, make sure you've got your workouts in. And then whilst you're on a diet, you're best probably making a plan for the weekend. So having sort of like, for me, and I say these examples, I don't do this every single weekend, but if I was on, say, 1,500 calories and I knew I was out for a few drinks this weekend, I would maybe sort of understand what I drink. So say, for example, I drank Corona. I should always use this. And I'm going to use a glass of Prosecco. Say I drank Prosecco and it's 100 calories. And I knew I was going to have like 6-7 glasses of Prosecco. I would make sure I took 700 calories away from my higher day. And the rest of that day, I would try and make food fit. And I'd focus on whole nutrient dense foods like your 0% fat Greek yogurt, your eggs, your salads, your high protein, and your veg. So if you consider that you made a plan for that day, you've enjoyed your few glasses of wine, then even if you do trickle over, say you do go over 200, 300 calories, throughout the week of being in like 200-300 calorie deficit throughout the week, technically it should balance out quite well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I just feel like, because I don't have massive feed days, if you like, but I just have, I have more on the weekends, as you said, and then so I'm still losing weight every week. I'm bang on, but I just sometimes worry about it.
Yeah, but the thing is asking yourself what you're worrying about. And for you there, I can say, like, you're obviously worried about getting your protein and your nutrients in. But the reason you get your protein and your nutrients in on a diet is to feel full and to feel energized. So for you at the moment, like, and this probably applies to a few others, is if your weight's coming down, your photo is looking better, your energy's good and your recovery's good, do not worry about it. And that's me. It's probably not the best advice you would receive from a coach, in all honesty, because obviously we're a coach, say, well, you should focus on your nutrients, but we're just average humans that like to enjoy a little bit of health and fitness and enjoy our weekends. If you were telling me your weight was coming down, but you're really struggling, energy shit, and your recovery after each session is poor, then I would say maybe knock the alcohol on the head until you get to where you want, or at least limit it to a certain degree. And that's where that balance comes in, is like, it is up to you and your choice. But if recovery is good and, like I'm saying, and you're moving in the right direction, don't stress too much. You should stress when it's sort of not working or things aren't moving at the right rate. But for you, your goal is, say, different to mine. Say for my photo shoot was to get in the best possible shape I could. And for me to be able to do that, I had to limit my alcohol, if not cut it out. But for you, your goal isn't to get into like a photo shoot shape or step on stage. It's to find yourself a balance where you lose a bit of weight and you can have a glass of wine at the weekend. So you found your balance, you found your goal. So I wouldn't stress about being perfect with your nutrients, because that's not your goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then following on that, and as to what you were saying, what you want to do is you want to, like, next day get back on it. So I spoke about a full back diet a couple of weeks ago, and I posted it in the group. This is what you revert back to, and you get back on the plan straight away. So it's like, if you know you've overate or overdrank, it's like, right, go back to this safe diet that you know works for you, and it puts you in a slight deficit. It takes your mind stress away from things, and also look at your numbers. Like, your weight has come down. There's no need to stress. Your energy's good. Things are still moving in the right direction. But like, if you start doing that every single weekend, your progress is going to stop.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
no.
just take a step back and get back onto what works and just stick back to the plan. So, which leads me quite nicely onto what I mainly want to talk about for the rest of today is making the most out of these next 2 weeks. And then we'll talk about setting ourselves up for the weeks 9 and 10 where we get a bit more food. So the main thing that I said was like from last week was everything is subjective to you. Is your progress and the rate of your progress comes down to your own goals and what your balance is. But does that mean you shouldn't sometimes push harder than you need to, or you shouldn't sometimes dig a little bit deeper than you have to? And I was a bit soft on this and touching around the edges and being like, well, it's up to you if you want to do it. But if you want to maximize progress, sometimes we have to be quite disciplined with ourselves, and we have to sort of understand that like we do need to learn to say no. We do need to understand that sometimes we need to make a better decision and a smarter decision. And that is because we don't want to sit in a deficit all year round. We don't want to diet for longer than we need to. If anyone said they could get to where they're happy in 6 weeks or 12 weeks, most people would pick the 6 week option. I don't think anyone would rather diet for 12 weeks over 6 weeks. So this is where like the discipline and pushing yourself and making the most out of your progress comes to a sort of point where it's like it is a decision. And as much as most people would say like, do you know what, I would like to make progress, but I still want to enjoy life. By making some decisions that benefit your health and benefit your weight loss journey over picking your happiness for a few weekends, it does lead to long-term happiness and long-term progression. Because like we just said with Mariko there, Mariko's found a nice balance where his weight's coming down, he can enjoy a glass of wine at the weekend. But if that was happening and Mariko was unhappy with how he looked, would he be better off going for the easy option and picking the alcohol and the glass of wine just to have a little bit of a weekend tipple and enjoyment? Or would he be best being like, do you know what, for the next 2-3 weeks, I'm best just getting myself into a position where I'm happy, and then I've got that balance for life. And that's something which a lot of people avoid. And this is probably the reason why you see people sort of in shape and not in shape, because a lot of people get to this position and they give up really easy. And it's like, oh, I'm a little bit tired, or I'm a little bit hungry. And in the nicest possible way, and this is me caveating as to how nice I was last week, that is a good thing. I'm sort of glad you're a little bit hungry. I'm glad you're a little bit tired, because that to me shows your diet's working. It shows obviously your body is not getting as much energy as it needs. So therefore it's going to start using its excess body fat, and therefore your weight's going to come down, and therefore obviously the aesthetic side of things come along with that. And again, without digging deep into each person's situation, is where's that balance? As long as you're not running yourself into the ground and crashing, you're going to find a nice balance of where weight is ticking down, but you're not burning out. And that is an important fact. I've got someone on the call there, and I actually had a phone call with them today, and they were worried that their energy was just coming down a bit too much. And where they're at with their journey, they decided, you know what, I'm quite happy with how I look. I know right now is not the time to push my diet to where it needs to get. I'm quite happy with how I look. I'd rather focus on monitoring my energy because I've got sport and I need to play sport, and that's my main focus. So we stopped the deficit, brought the food up and said, look, we'll sit here and we'll give you more higher days to make sure your energy's balanced out. Whereas someone else on the call said to me last week is like, I'm tired, I'm hungry, but I'm not happy with where I'm at. So I said, well, we don't want to stop the diet. We need to look at what you're eating. And we dug down and we found that fiber was ridiculously low. Sorry for using the word ridiculously because I know you're on the call. But it was a lot lower. And I said, before we make any further changes and before you give up and say you're tired and say you're hungry, are you maximizing the most out of your food? And she was like, no, I could eat more veg, I could eat more fruit, I could eat more peppers, raspberries to make sure I'm maximizing the amount I'm getting from my calories. So what I'm trying to say is be aware of your goal, be aware of where you're at, be honest with yourself, and then you can start pulling back layers and layers and thinking, right, am I maximizing the most out of the calories? And it is a matter of repeating what I say. But how many of you now understand if I said to you right now, what's one of the most important things for keeping yourself full? Put it in the chat. Other than protein, what's one of the most important things for keeping yourself full and digestion, etc., etc.? Fiber, live well. So because I've been repeating myself every week, you're starting to pick these things up, and that's why I don't mind. Sometimes I'm like, oh my god, I've said that's too much. I keep repeating myself, but because I am, you're picking it up and wait. If I just brush past this topic as a one-off, you probably wouldn't pick it up. So fiber is good for keeping you full. It's also with when you pick foods high in fiber, they tend to be really high in nutrients, which your body uses. Therefore, you're going to feel energized. So in terms of these next 2 weeks, I am going to say, prepare to be honest with yourselves, prepare to dig a little bit deeper than you normally would. But in order to maximize your progress in these next couple of weeks, make sure you're focusing on the right things. And that is, first thing first would always be calories, making sure, and I am a bit of in a disagreement, and I've got to hold my own thoughts on this topic to myself whilst we're on ELIMIN8. But calories first, then make sure you're hitting your protein. And then I would say from there, the next most important thing is making sure you're getting your 20-25 grams of fiber for the simple fact of energy balance and feeling full and making sure you feel good, and you're making sure these next 2 weeks of your diet is easier than obviously making it hard for yourself. The last thing you want on a diet is to feel tired, to feel hungry, and to feel low on energy, because that's the 3 things that are going to make you want to go for food. So if you really want to maximize that, that's what I would do. I would also limit alcohol for the reasons spoke about on previous topics. But again, Mariko said he's found a nice balance where he's not tired and he's not hungry and his weight's coming down. So again, subject to you. But I would say when we're talking alcohol, it's more excessive drinking. And that's probably me and most Saturday nights. Anna, I'm digging you out because I've seen you Saturday night. So when we go out and we start drinking too much, that's what leads into our hunger and leads into our tiredness and our ability to stick to diet. So that's what I would do. And then also, one you're probably not expecting me to say is HIIT. So like HIIT workouts and running and things like that, they take a big hit on your energy and they spike your hunger levels. So as much as like we spoke about in previous topics, like a running session would burn more than walking, but it also spikes your hunger levels more than a walk would. So you want to make sure you keep that sort of recovery and energy on point, and spiking that with a high intensity session like a boxing class or sprints or anything like that is something I would be very, very careful on. If you can get away with it and you feel good, that's okay. But personally, I would not take that risk, because for the extra 200 calories you would burn in, say, a class over a walk, you're more likely to smash 400, 500, 600 of binge eating because you're tired and hungry on the diet. So be aware of that. Be careful. If you do play sport or you are running, don't be scared to ask me for a second higher day. I'm currently training for a half marathon, and even when I diet, I'll put in 2 higher days over 1 high day, and I would put that in the day before an intense exercise. So if anyone's training for half marathon, you would put in a higher day, say on the Saturday, and then you would run on the Sunday, just to keep that energy balance. And then it's all your standard things like your water. The things I put in every single week is the Wednesday reminder: your fiber, your protein, your water, steps, etc. That's how you're going to maximize your progress over these last 2 weeks. And it's simple as that. And again, it's probably dieting, and the end of a diet probably goes against everything you've probably sort of known or sort of heard, because it does push health boundaries, and it's best to speak about these things and let's not beat around the bush. Dieting at these low levels at last 2 weeks of your eliminate calories does push health boundaries, hence why I say these diets need to end. So I would also stick to what I know works. And for me, like I put in an example in the group before, it'd be like I'd be sticking to sort of like the same breakfast, same lunches, and similar dinners where I could. And then maybe like 1 or 2 meals at the weekend, I would change it up. I would eat out a lot less. So I'd maybe have 1 dinner out and 1 lunch out at the weekend as a maximum, rather than usual 2, 3, or 4. So if it is like the weekend coming up and I know I don't like to eat the same thing I've been eating the week, with these last 2 weeks, I'll be like, right, can I make a fake away on Friday rather than going out for dinner, which I usually would. And it's not because eating out is going to affect your progress, because like I said to you before, when I went into my last photo shoot, I was in Thailand for the 2 weeks before it. I ate out with the best part of 50 meals. So, and I still lost 2 kilos. So you can lose weight by eating out, but the reason you eat and you sort of make food where you can is so that you're in control. You basically want to control what you can control on a diet, and you want to think, right, I know I can put more fruit and I know I can put more veg into this meal to make sure I'm full. I can put extra berries into my yogurt to make sure I'm full and get my fiber. I can add my whey protein rather than going out for breakfast. I'm aware of how much sugar and salt I can put the reduced sugar versions of it. And again, that doesn't mean don't eat out. It means if you've got the option, you pick the better option. And that's what you would do at the end of a diet. And that's the most important thing in how to maximize it. But I won't go too much more into that. You know what to do. If anyone's got any questions or anything that they are really, really unsure about, then please do let me know. Anyone want me to cover a weekend or something they feel like they can't get out of, or they don't know how to make a smart decision on, that's coming up in the next week or two? No. Wedding. Yeah. Like when it comes to weddings, it's hard because it's your, like I said to you, if you could pick 5 days of the year to overeat and not overdrink, you'd pick your birthday, you'd pick Christmas, you'd pick your friend's hen do and wedding. Do you know what I mean? Then all them options would be in there. So what I would do is the days leading up to the wedding, I would be hitting targets, I'd be getting steps, I'd be making sure my workouts are in, and I'd be making sure my watch, all the things that you would normally do on your day-to-day diet. On the day of the wedding, what I would do again is eat a little bit lighter in the day. You would treat it like you would normally treat a weekend. You would accept that the wedding is a day you probably are going to overeat and overdrink. So that alone, even compared to your higher day, you would accept that and you wouldn't beat yourself up about it, and you wouldn't write off the rest of the week. You wouldn't be like, right, that's the wedding coming up this week, so I'm not going to bother trying this week because I'm going to ruin it anyway. You would do everything in your sort of like power to sort of stick to it and make sure you hit targets. I just said in the last comment that I'd have 1 meal out, 1 dinner and 1 lunch out a week, and I could still make progress. If you put both of them on the same day, 1 dinner and 1 lunch, and you've got your food at the wedding plus your drinks, you're still in the guidelines I set. And then on the Friday and the Sunday, I would be back on it, drinking water, getting steps in and moving where I can. And hope that's right, Steph. Just make sure everything's ticked off this week. Workout steps on the day, lots of water. I'm not going to tell you to drink less at a wedding. I'm not going to tell you to skip one of the starters or the desserts at the wedding. I'm just going to say enjoy yourself. That's what you train all year round for, is to enjoy these types of things and these trips. Move where you can, eat light where you can, and be sensible where you can, and then make sure you enjoy yourself. I say dieting on holidays ruins holidays and it ruins dieting, because you restrict yourself so much on holiday that you do feel that you haven't fully enjoyed your holiday. And then you come back from your holiday and you feel frustrated. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't even get to enjoy myself. All I do is have a diet. I'm fed up of this. I can't be bothered to do it anymore. So that is what I would do. In terms of Istanbul, Andy, 2 options. Again, I would never ask someone to track on holiday. I have tracked before on holiday and I don't mind it. I actually quite like tracking. So I'm like looking at like how many calories are in food, maybe because it's my job, but I would never ask someone to do that. On a trip, what I would do is stick to 3 main meal sittings: a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. or I would skip breakfast and have a higher brunch and a dinner, depending on how much alcohol was involved in my trip. And I wouldn't stress, because you tend to move a lot more on a city break. So you might do like 8, 9, 10,000 steps when you're at a desk job in Jersey, but when you're on a city break and you're walking around for 3 days, that could be up to 20,000 a day. And that difference between your steps often cancels out the food. But again, I wouldn't be, because I'm on holiday, I wouldn't be picking a full English for breakfast, a burger and chips for lunch, and a pizza for dinner. If I had a diet, I'd be picking something like yogurt based for me for breakfast, salad or wrap for lunch. Istanbul, it's lots of like Middle Eastern food, which is like lots of proteins, flatbreads, hummus, and lots of meats. I'd be picking like mixed grills and picking the options there and thinking like protein first. But again, making sure picking options I enjoy. I would never be like, oh my God, I'll get grilled fish because it's the healthiest thing on the menu. I don't like fish. So I wouldn't be picking the grilled fish option. I'd be, right, the mixed grill looks good. Again, if you had an option and you had it made no difference to your happiness or your life to pick the chicken or the lamb, you'd pick the chicken because you know it's lower in calories than the lamb. But if you really, really fancied the lamb kebab and you're like, right, do you know what, I'm going to have it. You're on your holiday. Who am I to tell you can't have a lamb kebab on your holiday? Do you know what I mean? And then again, I would make sure I'm moving around the whole of that day. Finish second year of uni on Friday and friends 21st in 2 weeks. Again, it's subjective to who you are, Matilda. I think we're quite happy with your progress and how well you've done. I can't really say to you that you need to be really restrictive in your diet, because you've done exceptionally well. And over these last 6 weeks, you've barely missed a trick. So you've built yourself up to this. So yeah, go and enjoy yourself. You've worked hard all year. So I'm not going to tell you to not enjoy yourself on Friday and friends 21st in a couple of weeks, because you've earned that. But as general advice for everyone else, if I had a night out, again, I would do that thing. And it's the same method whether you've got weddings, birthdays, etc., etc. Be smart. Think about what you drink. So like, for example, if you drink Prosecco, you know, it's 100 calories. You know, you're probably going to drink 7 or 8 glasses of Prosecco. That's 700 to 800 calories. If you've got a higher day of 1800, you would make sure you stuck to 1,000 calories worth of food in the day, and you would maximize your protein and nutrients in that, and you'd focus on all the things that you could. And you only really need to do this for diet phases. I wouldn't worry too much about you like throughout the rest of the year. Like, there will be times of the year where you're going out at night and you do have a full English for breakfast and you go out and about all day and then you have drinks in the evening. But this is what I'm saying. You are at the end of a diet phase. You need to understand what is more important to you. Is it getting yourself into shape? Is it enjoying the social event you're going to? I would say for the next couple of weeks, please try prioritize your own progress, because you're going to learn a lot about your body on this amount of calories. You're going to learn how your body reacts to certain foods, to certain calories. If just using Matilda there as an example and the advice I gave her, if she tracked 500-600 calories in a day and went full ham in the evening and weight went up, she knows that it wasn't the 500-600 calories that in the day, it was the full weekend. If she was only went out for a few drinks and she was tracked, say for example, she tracked 1,000 calories and then she had a few drinks and weight went up, and she'd be like, right, maybe 1,000 calories was a bit too generous to track. Next weekend, I'll try 800 calories and go out for a few drinks. If weight for the week comes up, she knows her balance is 800 calories. So for example, for me, I've tried this. I tried tracking like up. So my maintenance calories is about 3,000 calories. And before anyone says that's good, try burning 3,000 calories a day and stay feeling energized. It's not easy. So I tried like, right, I'll have 2,000 plus drinks on a night out. My weight kept going up and up and up. So what I've done is I dropped that down to 1,500. I thought I was being too generous with myself. So now if I eat 1,500 calories on a Saturday and go for a few drinks, obviously don't take it OTT, I tend to get a nice balance of like my weight spikes up due to probably the alcohol, but within 2 days it comes exactly back to where it was. And that's me. I found my balance, and that's come from a lot of trials at weekends. If I know I'm out for dinner and drinks, I won't eat 1,500, I'll eat 1,000, and I'll give myself that extra 500 back just to be on the safe side. and you learn. And that's why I want you to trial this next couple of weeks is, right, if you know that like you're going to have like a meal out, and that I've said to you, have that dinner out, and you're going out for dinner and you've tracked 600 calories plus that meal out without much alcohol, and your weight comes down on average for the week, and you felt full, you felt energized, you have nailed the balance of dieting. You've nailed the balance of being able to smash the week and enjoy yourself at the weekend without having to worry about what you get for dinner and having a couple of drinks. And that is where most people want to get to in life. Is most people want to get to Mariko's position, where they're losing weight and having a drink at the weekend. But it only comes from trial and error. And if you can do this at your lowest amount, at your most aggressive diet, what's going to happen when your food goes up and you've got more calories to play with? You're literally laughing, because everything's only going again in your favor. Your higher day becomes higher. Your maintenance through the week, you've got more calories to pick and play with. So that's why it's such an important thing for you to trial out. It's almost like missing an opportunity if you don't give it your best this weekend and the next 2 weekends and think, right, I know if I hit this lower amount of calories and I hit all my nutrients and things like that, I know I can diet on 1,200 calories. So I know psychologically when I'm on like 13, 1,400, I can stick to it and I'm not too hungry. I know if I've got my higher day and it's only 1,500 calories and I maximize what I do with that 500 and then I have a dinner out, which is 1,000, did my weight stay where it was? Was I energized? Did I make the right choices? And it's like, you're not really, obviously you can do this after Eliminate's finished, but you're giving yourself that best opportunity to trial it and see if it works for you. Like I said, I know my numbers now. I've done it long enough to know my numbers, that like 1,500 plus drinks is good. 1,000 plus dinner and drinks works for me. It will work for you guys as well. And it's just giving it that go. I was going to talk about post Eliminate and basically the difference between Eliminate and coaching and things like that, because a few people have booked in their one-to-one coaching calls. But I think I might talk about this next week, because we've already obviously gone into 35, 40 minutes, and I want the sort of information that I've said today to sit and it to be the forefront of everything that's been spoken about. We've got time to talk about like post Eliminate and upping your calories and why we up calories and why I want you to do it quick. I don't want people to try and avoid upping calories. So we'll summarize and then we'll wrap up. So first things first is expect the next couple of weeks to be a little bit tough, but don't give up at the first hurdle. You're meant to be a little bit tired. You're meant to be a little bit hungry. That is a good sign. So don't give up at the first hurdle. Before you give up and you're thinking, I'm tired, I'm hungry, dig a layer deeper. Are you hitting your calories for a start? Are you picking lean cuts of protein rather than just like packets of chicken, etc.? Are you picking like 0% fat Greek yogurt and berries over just a chocolate protein pudding? Are you getting your fiber in? Are you absolutely maximizing your food choices? Not saying you have to eat 100% clean is the only way to eat to lose weight, but before you complain and say that it's not enough food, are you maximizing your choices on that journey? Same with the weekends. If you've got something on, like you've got Istanbul or you're finishing your second year of uni or you've got your wedding, again, make the decision on them choices. Where can you make your smart choices? If you don't have something on and it's a Friday night and you're like, oh, do you know what? I don't want to go home and make dinner. I want to go down the beach. Can you think, right, I'll pick up some low-fat burgers, and rather than having 2 burgers, I'll have 1 burger. Do you know what? I'll quickly make a salad and take that down the beach and watch sunset. I know I'm going to be out all day Saturday. What options can I make? And it's just being smart and being prepared and thinking that little bit about your journey and a little bit about how much progress you want to make and being like, right, am I maximizing my opportunity of progression? And then again, obviously coming into that weekend option is give it a trial, give it a go, do it when you're in controlled circumstances, such as like you're tracking your food or you're making your food, and you can give yourself that higher amount for dinner and just think, did that lower amount through the day get me through to dinner, or was I absolutely starving and then it made me want two meals? Made me want to start around a main for the evening meal because it wasn't enough. So it's just like I said, everything with fitness and everything with coaching comes down to feedback and trial and error. We don't have special superpowers for making people get in shape. We stick to what works and we review the feedback, and then we make changes based on our guided knowledge, is probably the best way of putting it. So any last questions on that front? Anyone need any help with any breakfast, lunch, dinner ideas on what to do on a diet if calories are low? Anyone getting sweet cravings? Coke Zero works, 0 calories. Don't be shy on things like that. If you're still stuck, the group's gone a little bit quiet. It always does. Remember, there's no silly question. It's not too late to ask help for breakfast or ask help for lunch, or what should I do if I've got a really sweet craving after dinner? Post that in the group, because you won't be the only one thinking about it. So yeah, hopefully that covers everything. No one seems like they've got any questions. If you are really struggling in these next couple of weeks, please just drop me a message. Remember, part of ELIMIN8 is you can book in a call. I've added that in last year. And if you want a call to talk about your progress or talk about your own journey or where you're currently at and going into the future, book that in with me. Just drop me a message and we'll get a call in. And that should be everything. Have a wonderful evening, guys. If anyone's struggling, like I said, just drop me a message.
Thanks, Logan.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.